Okay, so then let's have a look at Eurocentrism as a political critique of the European policies in front of the colonies. What is this political critique of European policies accusing them of if they are criticized as being Eurocentric? The first thing I would like to draw your attention to is the notion of Eurocentric implies a particular image about the world that is quite well known in this dualism of center and periphery. In this view of the world, characterizing the relations between the former colonies and what they call the center and don't call imperialism. Firstly, they do this because imperialism obviously is, for this critique of a Eurocentrism, one of these outdated, no longer existing views of the capitalists in Europe. The view on the world as this dualism of center and periphery in fact eliminates conflicts between the imperialist world and the colonies and downplays them or presents an image of the world as if the world would only exist of nation states with gradual differences. In fact, they are all the same, they are all nation states, but concluding from that they are all nation states and describing that with this dualism of there are states which are in the center and others which are at the periphery, concluding from this that this equality of all being states does no longer include hostilities between these states, questioning their existence. This is a mistake, and it's a substantial mistake. That is the mistake of this notion of center and periphery, the critique of European-centered policies, because it presents the world, because they are all nation states, because it is a world of nation states, that this cannot imply anymore the hostilities of the states they very well still observe. And by accusing the European policies as being centered to Europe, they give a really odd explanation for these still existing hostilities and conflicts. Firstly, if one implies in this image of a center and periphery, the gradual differences, the world consisting of only gradual differences, and excludes from this the hostilities between the states, then, firstly, it seems as if this critique shares precisely the image the imperialists spread about the world, this idea of nation states as the achievement of humanism, as the representation of civilization, those very ideologies with which the imperialists, as colonialists, exploited and oppressed and killed the people in the colonies. And if you now, in this notion of Eurocentrism, imply an image about the world of all equal states, that therefore does no longer allow to understand why there is still a hostility, and explain these hostilities with this Eurocentrism you accuse the countries of, then you say this Eurocentrism is an outdated view, a view that only results from remains of colonialism, but not of what states are. And this is very odd, because, firstly, was it not these very states which forced the colonial world to be the colonial world of the capitalist states? Have they been changed? Did they change their society system after the colonies became what? Also capitalist states? So do they think that once they all become capitalists, the hostilities between capitalist states can no longer be on? Those hostilities they experienced as colonies, and once they are also nation states, there cannot be any reason anymore for the hostility between states? Do they really share this ideology presented to them as long as they were colonies, telling them our hostility results from the fact that we are only telling you what civilization means, and since you are not civilized, it is us which have to tell you what civilization means? And do they now think that after they became nation states, the hostilities between the capitalist countries and the now also capitalist countries of the colonies was over? It looks like that. But if even their own experience as a colonized country colonized by capitalists does no longer make them know that capitalist countries are those which imposed colonialism into their countries, and believe that after they also became capitalist countries, the hostilities must be over, so that the still existing hostilities must come from something else than from capitalism. If they have this dreamy view, they learn from the colonizers, and they now, once after they became themselves capitalists, apparently they share that. Maybe one other example could help to understand what a dramatic error this is. The Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was the country that established an alternative society system to capitalism. And for this very reason, it was attacked by the capitalist world. It was attacked by that capitalist country which was trying to take take the position to rule the whole world of capitalist countries, Germany. And in World War II, it was Germany which attacked Russia. And as you know, once this Germany lost the war, it was the winner of the war, the United States, who continued that hostility towards Russia. That was the Cold War. Then something strange happened. I don't want to talk what happened, but something strange happened. The Soviet Union terminated its alternative society system. Did this, the fact that the Soviet Union returned to the society system it opposed and to which it had created an alternative, the socialism, and its return to capitalism, did this suddenly make friends of the United States and the Soviet Union, or of the alliance of capitalist states in the West under the leadership of the United States, the NATO? Did they become friends? Did the hostility end after the Soviet Union decided no longer to be a Soviet Union but to be Russia? And as being Russia, becoming a capitalist state again? Well, the answer is clear. In other words, if those people who are now also nation states might believe that the hostility between capitalist states and their countries cannot explain anymore, because they think that being all capitalist countries doesn't give any reason for any hostilities, then at least a look at what happened in history to the Soviet Union and its development towards a capitalist country again, that it must be a dramatic error to believe that nation states are the achievement of humanism and a project of civilization that excludes any hostilities between these states. And that if there are still hostilities, then it must be explained as remains of colonialism. So that the critique of a Eurocentrism is a critique that tries to say we have to clean the world from still existing colonial thought and decolonize our thinking. There is another odd assumption or implication in this political critique of a Eurocentrism. This critique, as I said, says that the conflicts between the countries in the world, especially between the imperial countries and the colonies, cannot be explained by what capitalist states are, but must be explained by any still existing colonial views. The thing I'm talking about here is that in this political critique. It is assumed that the hostility between the leading capitalist countries and the colonies are a matter of a wrong way of seeing the former colonies. And the wrong way of seeing is that these countries, these capitalist countries, are not just capitalist countries, and because they are capitalist countries, they have all interest to continue to exploit and to oppress the people in the colonies, just, by the way, as they do that with their own people in their own states. In this strange critique of Eurocentrism, the capitalist countries are accused of having an inappropriate view about the colonies. And if they had the correct view about them, then they would end their hostilities. Very bizarre. So, coining imperial policies with the critique of Eurocentrism as an old colonial view that is no longer suitable for the relations between nation states presents the continuation of imperialism among now all nation states as something that doesn't suit into the times in which all countries have become nation states. Thus, presenting the world of nation states with the dreamy image the colonized thinkers, or the thinkers from the colonized world, obviously learned from the ideological department of the colonizers and still believe in them today, and obviously think that once the world is a world of equal nation states and capitalism, at least of nation states, then the mission of these states must be to take a joint responsibility for solving all the problems of the world. This sounds as if those people who accuse the policies of the imperialists in Europe to be Eurocentric in their politics, as if they are now reminding the capitalist countries of their own ideology they more believe in than ever any capitalist country or state believed in, and just presented as an ideology to justify what they did. But the critiques of the people coming from the new states now, they seem to take that really serious as what the real world, the world must really be about. To summarize, firstly, Eurocentrism as a critique of political activities of the European former colonizers, now capitalist countries as they were before, they not only find it irritating that the colonies by becoming independent nation states, that the colonies themselves became the same society system that exploited, oppressed the people in the colonies. That seems to be totally natural for them. Then, the continuation of wars and poverty, the continuation of conflicts, the continuation of the exploitation of the people in the now also capitalist countries, countries with nation states and a market economy. The explanation for this continuation, the critique of Eurocentrism presents as an outdated remain of a still existing colonial view on the world, which means that it can never be something that capitalist countries do because they are capitalist countries, as they did this when the new countries, new independent countries, were still colonies. In other words, Eurocentrism is a critique that clearly cleans the imperial world from any critique being a capitalist country, and rather says what you are doing can only be explained by something that still belongs to colonial times and does not suit to what you are today. Imperialism, hostilities, war, and poverty can only be explained by remains of the old overcome colonialism, and not by what the states with their market economies are today. I want to stop here and then go with the next step to what the critique of Eurocentrism, what this critique opposes, what it critiques, when it is applied to the world of theories. That is my next point.